what's going on? This is Coach Lane, the founder, creator of Coach's Mind. Now, this podcast, again, we're here to try to connect, serve, and inspire you and make you think. And we're super excited about this podcast because this podcast is talking about practice philosophies. This is going to be about, or it's from one of my great friends, great coaches, Erin. He's a football coach out in Wyoming on the Kelly Walsh football team. But this man has phenomenal philosophies, phenomenal ideas that ties into any sport. So he teaches football, but there's so many concepts that I took from his practice planning and practice philosophies, and then I added it to what I do on the basketball court. So this podcast is going to give you some great gems, some great tips on how to effectively create a practice plan. So I want you as a coach to challenge yourself and pick out about 3 to 4 things that you can use now in your practices to make them big, impactful, and better. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast.
So, Coach Lane, thanks for having me on. I'm Erin. I'm the head football coach at Kelly Walsh High School here in Casper, Wyoming. I've been a football coach, head coach. This was year 8, year 1 at a new school. I was 7 years in Big Piney, Wyoming. And then I've been a wrestling coach for about 9 seasons. I did track for 1. So this stuff is not specific to football, but the topic tonight is just how to build your own practice planning philosophy. Here's my email and my Twitter. I'll put that on the last slide as well. But we're going to roll. And so I thought we'd just start with a couple of questions to help you build your own. Everybody know that is a successful coach has some kind of a practice plan structure they work with. I've been on a staff where there was no practice planning. The head coach literally pulled out an index card 5 minutes before practice and scribbled some stuff. And you can imagine what practice looked like there. To the other end of the spectrum, using apps and spreadsheets and guys that were to the minute with the horn on the field or the timer. So most of us probably just do what our head coach did or what you've seen. And the idea tonight is how can you build your own and make it work for you. So the first thing is just to pick some priorities. What are you going to build your practices around? I put mine in bold first in order. So to me, number 1 is athlete health, and part of that game have a lot of impact, and it I think is physically the toughest sport there is, even tougher than wrestling. But my reason for that is if your kids aren't healthy, then how are you going to win on Friday nights? Especially if you're not a super talented team or had a lot of success, how are you going to win without your best kids? So I think that trumps everything. The next one that I value is the CNS load. Basically, your kids' neural tolerance for the work that you're going to do. How do you manage that? And it sounds complicated, but it's really easy stuff. And the third big one for me personally is just efficiency. How can we do more in less time? And we're always saying, how can we get rid of stuff or get out earlier? So we're not one of those programs that wants to stay out till 7:30 or whatever time your AD kicks you out of the gym or off the field. Some other ones that guys might pick, it's fun going to be something that your practices are built around is focus, conditioning, playing fast, whether that's linear speed of your athletes or just the tempo at which you run your schemes. Consistency. So some guys are big on, I always want Mondays structured like this and Tuesdays like this, and it's very predictable, versus variation. Are you going to be a guy that is going to throw your kids and your coaches curveballs and make them adapt to different things on different days? And just saying, okay, now how can we build those in and how will they show up in our practice plans? The second thing is you got to have a home base. And it's just like teaching. If you've been teaching online during the coronavirus pandemic stuff going on in 2020, if you want your kids to log in, you got to have one place they always go, whether it's a Google Doc, a website, Canvas, um, any one of those online learning platforms. The same thing has to be true with your practice plan. It's got to be housed somewhere that you always have it. And the four that I am going to throw out, two I've used a lot and two other people use, but Google Sheets, an app called Practice Timing, Microsoft Excel, and just doing it on paper. But any of those can work as long as it fits what you're trying to get out of it. And I have some pros and cons of those. The third and final thing is responsibility. And the key words are who's responsible for planning and communicating that plan. That's the what. By when to who. And that's something that I've been going through this past year. That was new to me. I was used to a smaller staff with guys I knew better that had a system, and we kind of had to start over and reinvent the wheel where we were. But an example of that would just be, let's say your head coach has some kind of a template or a blank thing already set up, and it's in there by Sunday at 8 a.m. And then coordinators in football, maybe football has OD and teams coordinators. You fill out your team and group time, and then your position coach do the indie periods, and those guys need it in there by 3 p.m. so you can have a staff meeting. That's what the communication and planning part would look like. So we'll go with each one of those in order. So building your priorities. Somebody should be able to look at your practice plan and say, man, this is what you really value, and you incorporate it every day or in varying ways. And an example would be if you said one of your values is fun, where are we going to see that in your practice plan? If you say we're going to be competitive and I value competition, and you don't have a single competitive period on your practice plan for a whole week, then you don't really value competition. It's got to show up there. And if you say you value keeping your athletes healthy, what things are you going to see in a practice plan that are designed to get that goal of keeping them healthy? So what ours are with the athlete health, like what you would see in our practice plan, we do RPR, which stands for Reflexive Performance Reset. It's just a simple set of drills. Once your kids get them down, maximum 3 minutes to do it. We call them wake-up drills. And then we also do a dynamic warm-up that's designed around their nervous system, basically getting them ready to perform and prime neurologically, not just muscularly, not just like saying we're going to warm up your hamstrings. We also limit full contact in our football practices, so we'll label on there what type of pads we have or what type of contact in that practice. For example, if it's at full rack, then kids are wearing helmets, shoulder pads, girdles, practice pants. Half rack would be just tops, and then helmets would just be, there's a no contact day. And if you're in full pads doing full contact in every period every day, you obviously are not making athlete health a priority. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means you got to be in line with what you say you do versus what you plan in your practice. And another way that we do that, we don't schedule water breaks. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. We used to do water breaks, but it's not super efficient. And if you can have managers or water stations that are always accessible, and you just have your coaches and kids understand if you're in the back of the line or you're going out of a rep, you can always grab a drink so that you don't have to take time to have a scheduled break. They're not going to get yelled at if they're in the back of a defensive line drill getting a drink of water from one of your managers. With the CNS load, it just means we don't go full speed every day. So what we do is we have full speed days, we have recovery days, and then we have what we would call like a spark practice. That'd be your pregame. And we basically oscillate. So a normal week with football, we come in and say, all right, Monday's full speed. We might do some testing like max 40 time on the track or a max 10-yard fly or some full speed drills on the turf, whatever that is. But when we come back, usually on Tuesdays is our recovery day, we have parameters and our coaches know, and it's in the practice plan. Kids are not going to go full speed past 20 yards. and they're always going to have at least 35 seconds of rest between reps if they are going full speed. So if you're going to run team, you're not going to go tempo with 10 seconds between reps because kids are not going to recover. We went full speed the day before, so we got to manage that CNS load and not fry their nervous system. Kids are going to get cramps. Kids are going to have soft tissue injuries. They're going to pull a muscle, tweak a hamstring. And they're not going to be going full speed on Friday. That's the most important thing. So if you're in a sport that's not football, basketball and track come to mind. If you have a meet on a Monday, well, you just have to look ahead and say, okay, how can we get their central nervous system sparked and ready to go full speed by that competition day? And what we like to do is we go full speed, recovery, full speed, spark, competition. That's what a 5-day week would look, and then 2 days of complete recovery on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So that's what that is, CNS load. The last thing is efficiency. So we started using an app this last year, and there was a little bit of a learning curve. But the thing that sold us on practice timing was that coaches all get notifications on their smartphone, and if they have a smart watch, like an iWatch or a Samsung watch, that talks to their phone, they'll get a notification 1 minute before a period ends, and it'll tell them, hey, this is coming up. And then you don't have to have the manager with the bullhorn or the big $2,000 timer out there on your field or someone around a scoreboard. So you can be super efficient and not have to even take time to yell at your running back coach, hey, in 1 minute, we're together for inside run. They'll know because their iWatch will buzz them. So if you looked at our practice plan, you would say, man, these guys value athlete health. They manage the central nervous system load intentionally.